Good morning, and welcome to A Better World with Julann and Fran. I'm Julann.
And I am Fran, and our guest today is certified hypnotherapist Leslie Swedish. Welcome, Leslie.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And may I ask you to talk a little bit about what you're doing to make the world a better place?
So, I am a clinically certified hypnotherapist that I have my own private practice, and I help individuals identify discomfort and dissatisfaction in their lives and find both comfort and satisfaction.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And how long have you been doing this?
About 2 years now.
Excellent. And do you work exclusively online?
No, I have an in-person practice as well. I do both.
Very good. And do you find that you attract any particular type of person?
Um, I have most recently been attracting women who are, in that menopausal stage that are experiencing some changes in relationships and, empty nesting and just trying to figure out what life looks like now as, a lot of the landscape even just socially changes and so that's been quite a bit of the load lately.
Well, that sounds great. I think that's a great population because I think in many ways, from the time women are little girls, they are encouraged to be like good moms, give, nourish, take care of. And when women get to be older and they no longer have children at home, maybe, or they no longer feel like they're sexy women or something like that, it can start to really get to us. So that's an excellent population to be helping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
and
do,
I'm sorry.
would you do a group of women or is it one-on-one?
So I am affiliated with a group that meets locally, and I help there just a little bit. But mostly it's been one-on-one sessions because I'm finding that there isn't a lot of information out there, and women are feeling very guilty, very ashamed. They're feeling selfish, and so that having the explanation of what's happening chemically in their body and what some of these hormones that are lessening um, attribute to more so than just their mood and hot flashes, but the deeper layers of it. It's been some really satisfying work. I would be open to doing some groups, and that might be something that happens in the future as I'm accumulating more and more information and more tools and really fine tuning how I'm bringing this information forward because it wasn't intentional. It was information that I went and sought for myself personally, and then just happened to start to attract women that were kind of in the same boat. And it was like, oh, how old are you? Perhaps this is what's going on. So, there may be a future in which I am specifically addressing in both individuals and in groups.
And you mentioned that they're feeling selfish. Why are they feeling selfish? You know what I mean? Are we just guilty all the time?
I mean, kind of,
Yeah.
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 Especially women that were stay-at-home moms for years, and they give and give and give and give and give, and then they get to a point where they're like, I kind of want to just focus on myself right now, but they're feeling guilty about it, and sometimes there's some failure to launch with the offspring that are wanting a little bit more than perhaps a mom might think that they should need at this point in time. And, to really explain that, oxytocin levels drop off too. And, the biological drive to keep your offspring alive, to be a people pleaser diminishes just because of hormones. And it's not that you're being selfish and it's not that you're a bad mom. You're a woman who was biologically programmed and, perhaps also socially conditioned to just give everything you have until there's nothing left. And that shift can can be, because what we all know, our subconscious mind likes the known. So if what we know is to overgive, there's always, not always, but there can be a piece of us, the subconscious mind, that's going, wait, this is new, I don't like this.
Yeah, we as we were taught at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, whether it's negative or positive, when you're young enough, you take in this information. And if the information that you've been given is you are the caregiver, you're the one who is nourishing, you're going to be a good mommy when you grow up, you're such a pretty little girl, things like that, that becomes your identity. And so when that biologically starts to shift, there's a real war within you because your identity is no longer, it no longer feels like that. It no longer, represents you that way to the public. And it can be a difficult time.
Absolutely. And when you take into consideration also, the Capucinian magic number around sleep of how many message units we can withstand every day, and you throw in some insomnia with that too, it's all of the things coming at an individual all at once with not very many resources, and certainly not a lot of understanding unless they're seeking it out for themselves. Doctors aren't always helpful. And in generations past, it wasn't something that was really talked about.
That's true. It really, when it comes to women, a lot of these things aren't talked about. I mean, fortunately, a lot of women have women predecessors who can teach them what's going to be happening with their bodies. But it is, as you get older, it often there isn't. I mean, you might witness what your mom goes through or something like that, but um, a lot of times it isn't discussed because we don't feel like it's a pleasant conversation.
Yeah.
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 So we don't talk about it. Um, I don't know if this would ever be relevant to you, but I was very much helped by a product called Amberin, which is not a drug at all. It's a proprietary mix of, I forget exactly what it is. It's vitamins and minerals and things like that. And it really helped me through the time when I was having hot flashes. I took it for about a year, and I might have stopped taking it a little bit sooner than I should. But I know that when women begin to have those changes, if they go to their doctors and ask for hormone replacement, sometimes the doctors will say, no, we can't do that because that could trigger cancer.
Yeah.
And so to have this other product is a great relief.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that, the medical field now is starting to kind of rewrite that story about hormone replacement therapy, that, that study that came out that scared everybody was not very relevant, and it's becoming a little less of the dominating theory going on, but access is what's very, very difficult. Gaining access to getting the panels done, gaining access to anybody that has any type of expertise or specialty in that menopausal transition. Most doctors will say that they had like a very little blip in their education about it. And with the advent of all of the different social media outlets that we have now, I think there's more people gathering and speaking on it, which is absolutely wonderful. And what's fortunate for us as hypnotherapists is the FDA has approved hypnotherapy as a treatment for hot flashes.
Oh,
So that's good information for any hypnotherapist out there to have, is this is an approved treatment for this specific part of that transition.
and that's a great approach too, because then essentially the person is doing it herself, you
Yes.
know, and it doesn't require outside help. It doesn't require, a drug or surgery or anything like that. She's actually accomplishing it herself.
Right.
Yep.
Were you surprised when you came to realize that you were attracting mostly women in this group?
I wasn't surprised. I did have the belief and also the training, that you do have a tendency to attract clients that are either going through something that you are currently facing or something that you have healed and gone through in the past. And I have seen that from the very, very beginning. The number of times that I'm in session with somebody, and as I'm speaking, there's a little, that little part in the back of my mind that was like, oh, I needed to hear this today. Thank you. Or as one of the instructors used to say, that little corner of the paper that belongs to us. So I wasn't surprised. I've been very pleased with it. I think it's what makes the work very fulfilling, is to know that I have the experience. I've been there. I can empathize with people even more because I've been in their shoes, or at least pretty close. If you have a client that comes in and you don't have any lived experience with it, I can certainly, imagine what it would be like to be in that position, and I can still be very helpful. But when you have that extra layer of that lived experience, I think even just energetically, there's a little bit more of a deeper exchange.
Excellent.
And I know sometimes people are not always open. We've had that a lot of times. People are a little leery about hypnotherapy because they're afraid you're going to make them do something they don't want to do. And I think that having you there, someone who's been through it and has helped herself through it, that has to be, something that helps them relax a little. So maybe that helps them be more open to, making the changes to help themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, when I am invited to do and collaborate with groups like this, I don't go in guns a-blazing where, everything is hypnosis. I do a quick little guided meditation and allow them to feel the relaxation and explain that, this is basically what hypnosis is. We might go to some deeper depths because right now you're sitting in a high back chair and I want you to be safe. But just having that little small exposure helps to create more of a known in their own subconscious mind, where now they have some type of a lived experience to look back at and not see it as so scary. But I also am seeing a little bit of the landscape changing, where more of these more holistic modalities are being approached by more and more people. It's becoming more mainstream and accepted, which is fantastic.
It is.
For everyone.
Yeah.
It really is. The analogy that I use often is, if you wanted to make your biceps stronger, you lift weights, right? And as you're lifting the weights, you're actually creating micro tears in the muscle. And then when you rest, your body heals that muscle and makes it stronger. So anytime you do something that causes you to get stronger, it's actually better for you than if you're taking something from the outside, like a drug or surgery or something like that. So that's the benefit of hypnotherapy, that yes, you do have the hypnotherapist there, but you are the one within yourself healing yourself.
Yes.
How powerful to learn that you can help yourself if you just, if you're open.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then that makes you know that you can help yourself, makes you more confident to do it with other things in the future.
Exactly. Right.
Do you find that a lot of people who come to you with, say, perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms stay after they've had those taken care of by you and they work on other things?
Yeah, because I think what happens more often than not is that they're not specifically coming because of they know that it's perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms. They come in because they're feeling some sort of way, and it becomes uncovered that this is what is likely happening. And I find that most people, if they're coming in for something like a past life regression or quit smoking or weight loss, and they've got a very specific goal, that's when, it can be, we achieve that goal and they move on. But when people tend to come in for anything that is more just basic self-improvement, I find that they stay much longer because they start to realize the benefits of, just having that constant check-in. having that session of relaxation weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, beginning to notice, once you've got someone that begins to notice their own thoughts, their own patterns, and understanding it as a pattern that can be broken or a thought that doesn't necessarily need to be there, they tend to want to go deeper and go further and, continue to just uproot some of this stuff because they have a deeper understanding of what it is to have subconscious patterns. So that's, one of my favorite things to do with an individual is really just, begin to expose some of the things that they didn't necessarily know were going on, the patterns that were showing up, and progress them through to a place where they feel like they can do the work on their own now. They have learned enough about being able to, witness their thoughts, challenge their thoughts, rethink their thoughts, feel their emotions, challenge their emotions, let them move through them, and start to show up in a completely different way in life in general. And so
Yeah,
that's always fascinating to me.
yeah, and rewarding, I would think,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. When you just, and then, you check in with them 6, 8 months later and they're like, yeah, this is fantastic. My whole life is different. My relationship with my children is better. My romantic relationships have improved. I'm having an easier time at my job that I thought I needed to quit. It's really wonderful.
That's because the relationship with yourself is better. And that's,
Yes.
just like the analogy we always talk about people, you're on a plane, you have to give yourself the oxygen first. So by helping yourself, you're changing your whole life. And Fran and I talk about this all the time, all the kindness, everything positive you do goes out,
Yeah.
and you attract more positive. So it's really great what you're doing.
Thank you. I love the work. I absolutely love the work. Um, and I see how it's changed me. I see how it's changed my children. I see how it changes clients, and they everybody's overall outlook on life becomes much better. We get away from that negative focus that, we're programmed with. It's natural. We need to stay alive. And also it can be, we can be bombarded with it in the outside life until you learn that you don't actually have to do that.
Right.
Right. And the wonderful thing about, the one person comes to you and works on herself and then goes out and has all this positive influence on the other people, is it helps us to realize we're not just our bodies. We're energetic
Yeah.
beings, and it's all an energy improvement. And
Yeah.
so, in addition to maybe improving the specific symptoms or feelings that they came to you to improve, they're improving all those other things too.
Absolutely. It's like just tapping people on the shoulder and seeing who's willing to turn around and see what that was. Not everybody is, but a lot of people are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great that you're doing this. How long do you see yourself doing it for in the future?
I can't see myself doing anything else. I started out in some human service type industries earlier in life, found a lot of red tape and bureaucracy, which had me, stepping away from those roles, which was unfortunate because I loved the work and I feel like I was really good at it. But the burnout rate is there. And I think what I love about hypnotherapy, and HMI did a great job of really highlighting this, is there's so many different avenues. The learning can never has to stop. You can go more on a spiritual path, you can go more on a scientific path, you can go more on a somatic path, you can go Ericksonian, you can do so many things. So I can't imagine I would ever get bored or burnt out with any of it because I can always pivot and change and adapt and evolve. And, I can go, there's so much flexibility. I can take time off if I need to take time off. I can take on a bigger client load if I want to. I can go completely remote. I could go completely
Right.
in person. So I really can't see a time in which I would ever want to be done with it. Perhaps I will come to an age where I just don't want to work anymore and I'd rather just life.
Relax on the beach.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
But
can do it from anywhere,
well,
you
and
know?
not only that, I mean, I've always, and I think a lot of people in our position would say the same. I've always been the type of person that the lady behind me in line tells me her whole life story. I
Yeah.
just have better tools to be helpful now. So
Right.
I could decide to retire. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to help somebody
Do
in the
it.
grocery
Right.
store,
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so often will tell people if they ask me, like, what's your favorite thing to hear? Any version of, I've never told that to anyone before, or I feel like, are you going to bill me for this? Or, and we're just in a store or,
Right.
just,
Talking. Right.
yeah, I could talk to you forever. And it's such a wonderful thing too. It just feels so, okay, I'm doing the right thing then. All right, feels
Right.
good.
People just want to be seen.
Yes.
They just want to be seen. And I didn't quite understand it when I was younger, why people would do that to me. Just like open their whole lives up in a mere second. And then I came to understand that I've always stopped to take the time to listen. I mean, and sometimes I'm in a rush and I can't really give somebody the attention, but when you really tune into somebody and you give them the attention and you see them, they have a tendency to want to do that and just open up, because so many people are not seen in their lives. They're not seen by their boss. They're not seen by their spouse. They're not seen by their, family. And it's profound. And one of the things that we learned is, things that are broken relationally can be fixed relationally, and it doesn't have to be that relationship. So I love to keep in mind that anytime I give somebody my time, my attention, and I really see them, I know and I understand that I'm healing something that was broken not by me, but that I have the ability to be someone who can help with that, as someone who at one point in time needed that very much. And I think it's profound.
That
Yeah.
you are the person now that you needed and probably didn't have in the past. And
Right.
I can't imagine a more beautiful uh, path to take. I just
Right.
think that is the most beautiful thing that you can do. And it seems the people that I know that have done that, and I hope this doesn't sound sexist, but they're largely female. Um,
Women were the healers.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have a lot of different belief systems, but I think when we get down to that, polarity of energy, we can call it masculine and feminine, but really it's just a polarity of energy. There is a very specific energy that is meant to be healing. Women were the midwives, women were the herbalists. It's just because we bring life into the world.
Right.
Yeah. To me, it just makes sense.
Yeah. It's true.
yeah. And there's even a theory that these Salem witch hunts were because those women were healing
Yeah.
and it wasn't appreciated by the men. And so they had to get rid of them.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah. Well, goodness. This is wonderful work that you're doing. We really appreciate it. Jill, do you have any more questions?
Well, if there was one thing that you could take away that you'd want the audience to take away today, you've said so many wonderful things and you're doing so many wonderful things, but one thing, what would it be?
I think it would be that, you have the ability to make your life wonderful. And more often than not, all it takes is a different perspective. And it can
That's
be
excellent.
very simple.
Perfect. Really.
Really perfect. All right. So when somebody wants to contact you, how do they do it?
So my website is Synergy Hypnotherapy and Healing Arts. That's probably the easiest way to find me. I have some buttons for contact or free consultation. I'm on social media, but I don't put a whole lot into that. So website is best.
All right, then. Thank you so much for being our guest today and for doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much. I
Keep
appreciate
up the good work
Yes.
it.
everywhere, even online at the supermarket.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you so much for having me today.
all right. Well, this has been another episode of A Better World with Julann and Fran. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. And please join us again, won't you? Thank you.